It's me. This is what my face looks like. So, I have been getting loads of comments about what is flame species. So this video is going to be about what exactly an ALLADON is and a very, very brief introduction to it. I hope that this could be some help, but this also isn't a fursuit video. If you're here to see Flame, you're not gonna see her. But yeah, ALLADONS, or Allodontosaurs for their full titles, or Dons as the community like to call them, are a closed species run by myself and a really nifty little group of admins on Discord. We're pretty big now. 200 members, 200 plus. I think we're on about 240. We're definitely exceeding 300 odd ALLADONs, including pouches. On a community scale, we're very active. We post a lot of artwork. We do a lot of writing and scripting, all sorts of stuff like that. We're a very creative community. On a more internal side, like what exactly is an ALLADON, which is probably why you're actually here, there is a lot more to it, and the easiest way to explain it would be to just say to go to the link I'm going to put in the description, which is our official website. It's a bomb site at the time that I'm uploading this video, but like the site will have everything that you need to know about ALLADONs, and you can look at it in your own time as well. It's in the process of being a bit easier to understand, but I'm also a scatterbrain and everything goes everywhere. Yeah, go to the website, have a look at what we've got on there. We've got pages about their language, their biology, their behaviour, the history of the events of our community and things like that as well. There's a lot on there and it's continuously growing. We don't really stop. We're always looking at things to expand the community and give our members something to do. That's the short way of looking at it. The long way is going to take a bit longer. Let's get into the guts of the beast then. That'll be fun. Sorry, I need to get the website up because I don't know what I'm talking about. I specifically hire my admins to learn all this for me, so when someone asks me a complicated question, I kind of just look at them and go, I couldn't run this community without my admins. I create, I don't manage. Anyway, right. ALLADONs are a closed species run by myself and my admins. And I know closed species are a bit of a controversial subject. I hope to actually do some videos on closed species at some point. They're a topic that I think are absolutely fascinating, but I know a lot of people don't enjoy closed species at all and think they're a bit pointless. For the sake of this video, we're just going to go with the assumption that closed species are designs that you cannot make your own of, and you have to purchase from a designated seller, adoptee, adoption hub, whatever your species runs as. Our community runs with 3 artists at the time of this recording. Myself I do like all of it, and I've got these 2 awesome noblins that love me really. They help me out, who just do pairings in the server. I will explain all of this, hopefully, eventually. I'm gonna go through the website, so I shouldn't get lost or distracted. It should make sense. They do pairings, but they take an awful lot of the pressure off of me when it comes to creating new designs. So these 2 are just as important as this one. Community aside, what is an actual ALLADON without the community? What are you getting into? You've seen these dragon winged raptor motherfuckers running around and you're like,
I want my summer cat.
Found someone who's managed to ponce an invite link off of one of the admins, and you start kind of looking in the Discord like,
what's this?
And then someone just says, look at the website or sends you this video. I'm sorry, all of it's terrible. The very, very crux of it. ALLADONs are therapsids, which are a prehistoric family of animals predating mammals and reptiles. You have therapsids, and then you have reptiles and mammals. Allodons are the only surviving member of this family due to their ability to hyper-evolve. Now, a hyper-evolution is something that is pretty unique to Allodons in and of themselves, which also plays into their lore of why they're still alive now. Hyper-evolution is basically just an adaptation to whatever the environmental demands are at that point. Allodons and anything in the Cliderodonti family are able to adapt to any demands within a particular set of weeks to months. Some Allodons are really good at it and can adapt very quickly. Other Allodons are shit and struggle to adapt to things. It completely depends on your Allodon or whatever Allodon you're looking at. Cliderodonti is the family that Allodons evolved from. So the only recorded prehistoric species is, bear with me because I can't remember their Latin names. So there are 5 recorded species of Allodons, extinct and living. There are more, but that will probably be explained in another video. If you go to the biology tab and the history tab on the website, you'll begin to learn a bit more about complete decomposition and hyper-adaptation and things like that, which will explain why you don't see more Allodons throughout history. Also, just to clarify, obviously all of this is fictional. It's part of the fun of being in a closed species. Don't be grumpy about it, it's just what it is. I'm going to butcher my own species names, so forgive me. But the 5 species that are known, the five known species of Allodons include Cliderodonti electi, which is also known as the elite, Cliderodonti tenebris, which is also known as the dark don, Cliderodonti reno, which is known as the fur don, and then the 2 extinct species that have been not really mentioned much but are on the website because is Cliderodonti preator and Cliderodonti pontus. No, I need that, come back! As mentioned, the living species of Allodons that we have, the 3 living species are the elites, the dark dons and the fur dons, the electi, the tenebris and the reno. Each of the species can interbreed due to being in the same clade, but they socially it's frowned upon, so usually they don't. However, nobody in the community respects this and everyone's interbreeding species together to make all sorts of weird hybrids with messed up horns and fur everywhere. It's gross. Those are the 3 species that everyone can play with at the moment, at present, at time of this recording. Most Allodons originate from Scotland, which is where the last known wild populations are. Due to things like civilization, colonisation and things like that, Allodons have been forced into hyper-evolving into more civilized species, which is again something that some Allodons thrive with better than others, which is why you will often see populations of feral Allodons or domestic Allodons, and then from on thatwards you would get civilized, and however you want to put your lore, however you want to adapt to them, that's how it is. But very generally we have domestic populations, which are the ones inside cities, as pets, as people, as civilians, however. Or you have the feral populations, which are exactly the same thing, just living in the wild, just living ferally, doing dumb things. So personally, in my lore, which I encourage people to follow, but you really don't have to, you can develop Allodons however you want, as long as their biology isn't changed. It's completely up to you. You can throw them into space if you want, where most of mine go as well. But in my lore, the way that the species sort of intermingle, Allodons have to pass something called a citizenship test, which is a series of exams that tests their comprehension, their mathematics, their understanding of things, and it tests their temperament as well. So it tests like how well they would function in a society and things like that. If they can pass these tests, they're basically just seen as a civilized species and are allowed to just get bank accounts, get cars, get mortgages, get housing, live like a normal person basically. They can just live however they want to in the city. Whereas domestic ones are literally just Allodons that are living with people and, or with whoever, and they're kind of just useless. I have, for example, Flame is a civilized Allodon, just. She passed the exams when she was taken in by oh god, I can't explain her story without backstory. Flame will get her own video as well. If you seem lost about her at the moment, please just bear with me, I will explain it, but shit son, it's a lot. Anyway, she passed these exams when she was taken in, And now Flame is on a apprenticeship to become a xenobiologist engineer as part of the military. Oh fucking hell, it's too long. She's civilized, and I have another Alladon called Eddie, who's basically Alladon dyslexic. Eddie can't function like Flame does. He can't write, he can't read very well, he's a bit useless, he can't pass these exams, so he's just domestic, he can't have a bank account, he's not allowed, he's a piece of shit. But yeah, however you want to develop your Alladons is completely up to you, or the person who has them. People vastly change the stories of their Don to whatever they want to fit it as. Those are just some examples. That's how the civilized Alladons go. I'm going to kind of leave them over there. That's completely up to you and how you want to do it at that point. I kind of only really developed the feral Alladon side because that's something that's a bit more specific to the species, not so much how people want to do it. So going back to the feral Alladons, the last known population of wild Alladons is in Scotland. Again, due to having to move into the city, there's not an awful lot left. There are other populations of wild Alladons, but that's completely up to people to develop in. If they've got a pack of Dons that they want doing somewhere, they can put them wherever they want. Alladons are, again, they hyper-adapt, they can live in deserts, but they evolve to live in snow. Feral Alladons will live in packs. They will be dictated by hierarchy, which follows a alpha, beta, Charlie system, which people keep pointing out is swapping between Latin and phonetic. I don't care. I didn't want a rank called Bravo. Honestly, every time I said it, we'd just expect to see some Alladons sitting there like, yeah, it's Alpha, Beta, Charlie, because I was an edgy wolf role player once. They work on a system like that, so it completely depends on how many Alladons are in that pack. Elders are respected a tiny bit better than like most other members other than the Alpha pair themselves, because obviously they're wiser, they're elder, they eat first, they're more vulnerable, but as soon as they become a burden on the pack, they kind of become abandoned. But Alladons are really good at not being burdens on things. They, again, hyper-evolve, or hyper-adapt. Hyper-evolve would just suggest like how the entire species has evolved. Hyper-adapt is like the actual thing that the individuals do. So please don't be like me, please use correct terminology because you're just going to confuse people. So starting at the bottom would be the 0 out of 10s. Now, all Alladons work on a grading system called skin scoring. Alladons don't breed for the strongest, the fittest, the ones that can forward the species better, like every other living creature does. Alladons fuck the prettiest thing. They're very vain. Three modern species have evolved to be extremely vain. They kind of only really care about the prettiest thing they can get their dick on. Alladons are also hypersexual, which is why they're a 16+ species. So if you're below the age of 16 and we have to ID you, and you get frustrated because A, you shouldn't have a PayPal, and B, you can't have an Alladon, it's because a lot of this stuff is not sexual, it's not safe, it's not safe for work, but it's very natural. And there's a lot of detail into the natural because that's what happens in nature. It would be really awkward for a 13-year-old to be asking someone of 26 if they can breed their Alladon with them. No, that's gross. Don't do it. I will also be going on to things like the breeding system that we have in the server, which is why I believe Alladons are so unique to other close species, which is what attracts a lot of people to them, which is another reason it's 16+. If you're under 16, don't apply for an Alladon. You can join our server, you can do artwork, you can do whatever you want, it's great, it's lovely, but you can't have one. Not until you're 16. Anyway, oh my god, distractions, hi. Alladons will fuck the prettiest thing that they can find. They don't really take into regard things like if they've been a good leader or if they've been any good as a potential parent. They kind of just look for the ideal image. Now, each species has an ideal image. Furdons I always describe as hippies. They kind of just love everyone and everything. They don't really have an ideal image. Elites and Dark Dons, so Tenebris and Electi, they have what's known as a royal image, like regardless of their rank. They have a ideal image that if this specific Alladon doesn't fit into, it's kind of like downgraded on the scale. At the top of the pile would be the 10 out of 10s for Dark Dons, would be a dark blue primary, a mid blue secondary, and a light blue tertiary. Not a white tertiary, because if it was white, that'd be considered defective and yeet. And then with elites, it's a really vibrant red primary, a golden secondary and a dark red tertiary. If there's any kind of dilution in this, if there's any kind of whites or spots or like misalignment of markings alongside the contact points or anything like that, their score goes down and they're not seen as beautiful, they're not seen as needed and exciting. Now, you're probably wondering, what the fuck are you talking about? What are these primary, secondary, tertiary, and tenebris and electi? What is this contact points you speak of? And all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, it's so fucking confusing for newbies to try and like get their head around it, especially if they're not really used to how genetics work. But if you're confused about anything that I'm saying, go to the website, go to the lore page, then navigate to skin score, which will explain everything from primaries, secondaries and tertiaries, what species is attracted to who, which spectrums are dominant to each species. Things like green as well. Green isn't a colour that elites and dark dons can have. It's only full third dons present a green on the skin, whereas all species can have like green flesh, which is a little bit rarer. All of that stuff, it's all explained on the website. We're also in the process of getting a genetics page, which begins to explain how us poucher artists deconstruct your ALLADONS to look at things like how markings pass down, marking dominance, double primaries, double secondaries, triple tertiaries, gradients, all that kind of stuff. And again, primary, secondary, tertiaries, that's all on the website. If you're still confused, because I'm really shit and the website's often either missing stuff or is in progress of being worked on, feel free to join the ALLADON Discord server. There's so many people that will be happy to help you. We have a little school of people who are learning how to do the genetics system. We have the pouch artists who are specifically trained to be able to read your ALLADONS as a way of thing, who will be able to tell you that if you wanted to breed one of your ALLADONS, what you're more likely to get, if you want a specific looking ALLADON, who you're best to breed with. Because even though you've got a, like for example, a black and red ALLADON and you want to breed it with a correct spectrum blue dark don, might not inherit any of that red because red isn't in that spectrum. You'd want to preferably breed with a dark don that's got red in the spectrum already. But then you need to look at things like, oh, is it red in that specific part that I want? Is it red in the primary, secondary or tertiary because I want a red primary? All that kind of jazz. It gets so wafty. That's all going to be for another video as well. It's so confusing to explain. So the hierarchy works on that system. So anything that is a 10 out of 10, anything that's closest to the perfect 10 will be at the top. Those will be the alphas. Those will where, if you've got more than one 10 out of 10, that's when there will be competitions for who's strongest, which are normally sorted out through tournament, which is a natural process that wild ALLADONs go through when picking mates and stuff. That is also another video, I'm not fucking explaining that right now. Below them, you will have either those who would qualify for an alpha, but do not because they're not strong enough, or you would have like the 9s or the 7s out of 10s on the as betas. Then you got your Charlies, and just down all the way to the bottom where you get your pick of the litter, which is where you get your 1s and your 0s. Now normally 1s or 0s will be killed. If they're not, then it's just the lowest score that are there. They barely get fed, they're expected to do all the shit jobs. They're usually the first to go out in the morning and see if anything's raided into the territory. That's roughly how the packing system works. Again, civilized species aren't so fixated on the perfect image, but they do still judge ALLADONs that are seen as defective, just naturally. It's like if we see a human that's got like 6 arms hanging out of its cheek, you're kind of thinking, yes Terry, you have a great personality, but you've got some fucking hands coming out of your cheek. Dons will naturally look down on other ALLADONs that are that have white on them, that have black or grey, hybrids as well, anything with mutations, like the tusks or barbs or Coots mutation or anything like that, they will be frowned upon, they will be treated differently, they will just be treated as just general meh. I'm trying to think of anything else. ALLADONs don't have an anthro or a quadrupedal form, they are both. I always describe ALLADONs as quadrupedal, I don't know if there's an actual word for them, but they have the hips to be able to go between bipedal and quadrupedal with ease, with very, very little effort at all. It's normally just a case of balance. Civilized species will obviously be more encouraged to walk bipedally to blend in a little bit more, whereas quadrupedals will benefit more from being quadrupedal in the wild. But you will get bipedal feral ALLADONS, you will get quadrupedal civilized ALLADONS, there is no difference. I am really guilty of drawing mine very anthro. They shouldn't be that anthro. They're able to manipulate their tail in any way that they need to balance. It's just a case of that. So if you have an ALLADON, or you're looking at getting an ALLADON, and you look at cutting off their tail and stuff, you should think about how they balance and how they came to cope with things like that. All of the minimal changes made to an ALLADON, we always encourage people to look really deeply into that and how that affected that individual, because that brings character to the character. Every ALLADON has flaws and we exploit them. We make everyone think about it. If people are going to give their ALLADON disability, they will fucking research that disability to the arse end of the earth. Which I think is another benefit of a closed species as opposed to an open species, is that we have the ability to monitor what is going on within it. Dons will normally stand between 6 and 8 feet when standing bipedally, depending completely on the body type, just their genetics really. ALLADONS can go from being pretty normal to pretty beastly. Flame's about 5'7", 5'6", something like that. So she's naturally like short for an ALLADON. Females are generally a little bit smaller than males, but not always. Males are more likely to get the beastie body type, but again, not always. Males will have protruding tusks, so their upper canines will be more forward than their lower canines, which curl up behind the nose. Again, not always, but that's more natural. They're a sexually dimorphic species. Females have pouches, not always accessible. They only sort of become accessible during heat, which only happens every 4 years. Other than that, you can basically only fit a finger through like the little pouch hole, which is gross. ALLADONS have a very specific shaped tongue. It's like a normal, fairly rounded tongue with like pinched sides. They have hyper-reflective eyes. It's on the website, and it'll explain a little bit more about how ALLADON eyes pretty much always look like they're glowing if there's any kind of light source bouncing off of them. ALLADONS have a evolved adrenaline system. ALLADONS have a special organ which creates a hormone stimulant called the Maury hormone, which attaches to adrenaline inside the animal and basically superpowers it. This has all sorts of effects on the animal itself. I would recommend reading about it on the website more than listening to me talk about it now, because it's quite wordy and I can't remember the specifics behind it because I'm a piece of shit. There's a lot of explaining about how it works biologically on the biology page on the website. It'll explain things like how ALLADONS can still function after they've technically died. It also starts going into things about complete decomposition, which is why we don't have a fossil record for ALLADONS. It also goes into things like why ALLADONS can't be eaten, or when they are, they have to be specifically treated. All kinds of malarkey like that. It's all on the website. I do believe that is I say a quick rundown. I believe I've been filming for about an hour. But I do believe that is the quickest rundown I could do for the ALLADONS without going into way more specific details. There will be other videos that explain the species a little bit more, but I kind of needed to do this video as a pretense for Flame's like lore explanation video, because otherwise it just wouldn't make sense. It would just be, oh, she was abused, oh, she made it to the city, oh, she went to space. Oh, by the way, Flame doesn't speak like this in canon. She speaks fairly normally. I say fairly normally, she always sounds like she has a cold. But I will explain all of that in another video that is not now. If you're interested in joining the ALLADON server, I will be frequently posting links to the server in the community tab. But even if it's not really your cup of tea, and if you're a fan of this bullshit, you can't actually see me. Flame lives on my wardrobe. I'm not getting her down. But if you're a fan of Flame or like any of the artwork or anything that I do, feel free to join the ALLADONS server and just get to know the community. They're an absolutely spanking group of lads, and I couldn't ask for a better community. Yeah, I hope this has like begun to quench people's thirsts on things like who's Flame and what are ALLADONS. If it's not, I'm sorry, and I'm also sorry it's not a fursuit video. Not all the stuff I make is going to be fursuit videos because my life isn't about fursuit. My life is basically about the ALLADONS. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. You can subscribe for more stuff. If not, you can join the ALLADONS server and enjoy more content from this bullshit. Oh, I don't know.